So this is being held during Pride Month to really highlight the importance of inclusivity in all sports, specifically rugby. And I really feel like that the importance of sport in a young person's life cannot be overstated. And I also want to thank Old Glory for continuing to be a part of this Pride celebration. And also thanks to all of the local teams who are here on this panel for participating and engaging in questions with Team DC and Old Glory. We are first honored to have the Old Glory owners participating with us, Paul Sheehy and Chris Dunleavy. They are lifelong DC natives and rugby players. So now turning to our distinguished players, Jameson, Fanana Schultz, and Threaten Palamo. And we would like to get to know you guys a little bit better. So can you each tell us when and how did you first get involved with rugby?
Yeah, I'll start off. Well, rugby is, coming from an islander family, Pacific nations, it's like one of the main sports, if not the national sport of the Pacific Islands. So from a young age, even from, from when I can remember, I was 4 years old when I was first touched the rugby ball. And from then on, I just fell in love with the sport, the values rugby holds.
I got into this sport pretty early. My father and both my brothers played. I was just kind of a water boy. I didn't really know what was going on at first, but I think just the more time went, I started to learn the rules. I was definitely that kid in elementary school who tried to recruit everybody from football and basketball and baseball and try to start a team. Back then, there was no youth rugby at all. But yeah, I think just seeing what the sport does, how it brings people together, I thought that was pretty special growing up as I observed the game. That's definitely what got me into the game at first. And then I learned to love the game and its skill sets.
Excellent, thank you. So Paul and Chris, I just want to turn to you and just talk a little bit about Old Glory's involvement in the community. We were kind of highlighting that initially, and specifically with Team DC around Pride Month. And you guys have teamed with Team DC for the last 2 years. Why do you guys think it's important for Old Glory to connect with the community during Pride Month?
Paul and I got involved with this not because we particularly wanted to own a professional sports team, but because we wanted to promote rugby as a sport, and we believe in its values and its culture. And one of the core elements of that is inclusivity, and with regard to gender, sexual orientation, ethnicity, race, all ways of looking at humanity. Everybody, there's a spot on the rugby pitch and in the stands for everybody. And we believe you have to be proactive about that and promote those ideals for them to really succeed in being realized by everybody. So I'd say that in a nutshell is why we have found ourselves working with organizations like Team DC, which does a fantastic job of highlighting the visibility of LGBTQ and inclusiveness issues within the region, and bringing unity to the community through sports and participation in all the great sports that are part of the DC fabric.
Add to that, when we were developing Old Glory, we wanted something that the community could rally around, and the rugby community is just an incredibly diverse and wonderful community, and we feel that if the rest of the public could see more of the sport of rugby and all of the values that it brings, the world would be a better place. So I know that's how I felt. I've got all of my children playing it, including my daughter, as you mentioned, and I just think it's all the values that it teaches them and the camaraderie. They're your best friends for life, or your rugby mates, and that's really what we try to focus on. It's been wonderful having the community, what we've seen, the DC community, really come together around this.
Okay, so I don't want to monopolize all of the questions. Sam from the Furies, can you kick us off?
Yeah, so as y'all are aware, it's definitely a trying time in our world. and athletes are uniquely positioned to have impact and direct impact on the situations going on. Our question is, do you think that professional athletes have a duty to weigh in on social situations?
I think before I can answer that, I think something that we all need to do, athletes and people included, is be more aware of what's going on, rather than, there's so much stuff that's just being unfiltered, that's just coming through at all sorts of outlets. Do your own homework. I know that's harder to do than, we've said, because so many different lies are out there. You have to do so much research to actually figure out what's going on. With that, then I think you should use your platform, to express your opinion. Everyone's open to their own opinion, but before you make any opinion, I definitely think you do your homework on what you're doing. Because I've seen some people out there, I'm just like, seems like you just kind of read one side and you haven't really seen but from both sides. So that's my take on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think as professional athletes, it's our job isn't just to play and represent our team. It's also to represent who we stand for. And I think rugby stands for not just ourselves and our team, but it's everybody, for everyone from all walks across the world, black, white, yellow, green, orange, everybody. And that's what rugby players, I think, need to do, especially with those social media platforms. It's just to spread awareness of equality, in sports. And I think rugby does uphold that. We have one of the most famous in rugby, a referee, Nigel Owens, who was openly gay, and he came out, I think about 5 years ago now, but he's one of the most well-known referees in the whole world. And it's interesting to see, because after that, a lot of players, professional active players, have come out after that. So I think spreading the awareness of the equality in rugby and just the inclusiveness of rugby is the important part that us as athletes can do to help everyone be aware.
Excellent. I don't know if Chris, you or Paul want to say anything sort of about your players and their duty or anything to take a stand or say things about what's happening in politics or current events.
Yeah, I think, on the one hand, as an organization, we don't want to be in the position of, urging our players to embrace one view or another, or one politic or another. That said, we definitely encourage and support them to use their voices. And I would say, as the most obvious example in the recent unrest we've had around police brutality issues and the Black Lives Matter movement, we've had a number of players very vocal, and we have celebrated the messaging they've done online, and in fact adopted our own messaging around the issue. And we believe athletes should be supported in their right to use a voice, and we stand behind that without wanting to dictate what kind of politics they need to embrace.
Yeah, and I just add, just thinking back, Colin Kaepernick. I mean, just the simple little protest he did, and the amount of vilification he took to do that, pretty remarkable. Looking at that now and seeing how right he was to do that. So we fully support efforts to do what's right, and we're going to continue to do that and try and be respectful anytime we do something. But we need to have a voice, and athletes certainly should be able to do that.
I was just going to ask for either Stratton or Jameson or both. How has your experience in DC here been different to what you expected, or has it been what you expected? Obviously, the not playing right now wasn't what you were expecting, but.
I think I knew DC had a pretty good following in rugby. But what I thought was really special was when we went and played those games, our home games, the amount of teams that came in their own colors and showed the sport, I thought that was awesome. I thought that was amazing. I thought everybody showed like what DC is all about, because a lot of other teams right now are struggling with their clubs. Some people just have their own pride and they don't want to help, they don't want to participate. But I think that also speaks volumes with our front office as well, how they've been able to include so many different people, and you just kind of see how that love comes back to our games, because this is coming from us. When we play other teams, they're shocked. No one can believe the amount of like our fan base, how strong it is, and the people that come to the games and how loud we are. The Seattle group was telling me they now know what it's like to play against people in Seattle, because our fan base matches the same kind of level of intensity. So yeah, that caught me off guard, which was really awesome.
Yeah, it also comes down to, you know, when Old Glory was first made or founded, you know, they wanted to make it like to bring a team in that not were only good at rugby, but had the values that, you know, that represented the emblem well. And that's why Andrew and the owners, Chris and Paul, you know, as well as John Manson from Scotland Rugby, they've brought in special players to represent the city of DC and, you know, the country of United States of America. And it just goes to show everyone in the team, like there wasn't any conflicts of interest or any battles between each other. We all understood where we came from. We had people from Canada, Australia, New Zealand, from Samoa, you know, little islands. And, you know, it's cool when they all come together into a team, and you're going onto that field, and there's everyone from a different country, different backgrounds, you know, and seeing the end results after the 80 minutes, you know, it just goes to show. And the community loved it, and we could tell that. And that's what we're doing it for as well, as, you know, for the people, not just for us. We want to help out everywhere we can. So, you know, thank you for having us, DC.
And on behalf of the community of DC, we thank you guys, because it's been definitely an enjoyable experience. Okay, I'm going to turn it to Rashad from The Scandals.
Hey again, guys. So my question is, what qualities make a good teammate a good team captain?
Well, I'll take this question because he's our captain. Well, obviously it's not the looks, because, you know.
Nice sense of humor too.
Leaning over.
No, I think the first one has to be respect. You know, we all know Fred Palamo. You know, he's a legend in the USA rugby environment and, you know, world rugby. You know, he was one of the youngest ever in the world to represent a country in the World Cup. He's been to 3 World Cups. You know, he has long hair, so everyone recognizes that. But, you know, I think the 3 main values is definitely you have to respect. The respect has to be mutual between the captain himself and the players. It has to be mutual respect, not just one leader on the field. You know, he has to be able to listen to all voices throughout the team, which is what makes Old Glory so strong and has a great core of foundation. I think the second one has to have a sense of humor. You know, rugby isn't always a serious sport. You know, we have to have fun. You have to enjoy yourself. And if the captain, the leader on the field can't enjoy himself, then how are we meant to do that? So I think that's what Threadden holds. Threadden, Palamo, and Mungo Mason, which is our co-captain. And I think the third one has to be fearless. And I think that's what they both show on the field. And, you know, when we see our captain upholding that, you know, that the fearless attribute on the field, that's what makes us, you know, want to follow him. And I think that's the 3 main attributes a captain should uphold.
Excellent. Threadden, do you want to say anything about what you would think as a good captain?
Just be me, really. No, I think he's hit it on the nail. I mean, because I'm a co-captain, I can kind of see it from our other captain's side of view. Just because you're named captain doesn't mean you have to change the way you are. You were picked for those exact reasons for who you were. So you don't need to do extra. You don't need to do any more than what you are. That's why you are captain. If anything, what you do is you help bring the voice from the players to the staff and vice versa. You're almost a vessel, if anything. It's how I've taken it, and it's how I've seen Mungo do it. And Mungo's definitely very inspirational on the field. You definitely have to be someone who can back himself when they're talking. And when I see Mungo out there making all sorts of stats, tackling, contact, rucks, it's something I'd like to follow.
I mentioned before, one of our team's core values is inclusion, which applies not just to our queer players, but also to all trans players who want to play with us. And we just touched on Old Glory's connection to the LGBT community, why that's important to you guys, but we'd love to go a bit deeper into why you think it's important for rugby to set a standard of inclusion.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'll start there again. I find rugby is unique within the spectrum of sports in the United States, in that it has the opportunity, it has this tradition and strength of culture behind it that carries a lot of weight with people's perceptions, but it isn't bound up in what everybody already knows about American sports and sort of a lot of the stereotypes of what sports are about. So we've got an opportunity to advance social and even political thinking in a way that other sports aren't free to do. We're free to do it right now, and we are who we are because of our inclusiveness and because of the fact that there have been organizations, including, by the way, the Renegades and the Furies, who for years have been doing hard work to achieve the situation of inclusiveness that we have in the culture today. I think we need to recognize that it is not long ago that we could not say rugby was as inclusive as we can today. It was not always as inclusive of women as it is today. Certainly it had issues of rampant homophobia and other problems within the men's game relatively recently. But we have this unique, wonderful culture that we know because we're in it. We all feel connected to each other because of the respect we develop for everybody who steps on the pitch and fights their way through 80 minutes of what rugby is, that we can embrace that inclusiveness. And I think we've got an opportunity to be a national leader, and therefore we have an obligation to be a national leader.
Yeah, if I could just add, our emblem is Old Glory and our logo, and it, we want every American to participate in the sport of rugby, and that's why when we identified our logo, we really felt strongly about inclusivity, and why wouldn't you do that? And it's just part of a foundation of who we are. I grew up with a gay uncle, and in the late 60s and early 70s, and he had to deal with a lot of prejudice, and grew up on 8th Street, and our rugby team actually spent a lot of time around there. So I certainly want to see every possibility that we can to open up doors and include everybody, because it's just such a wonderful sport, and that's what's so unique about it. And I think it can be life-changing. So, I mean, we're excited about helping any way we can.
Excellent. Jameson, Threaten, any comments on why it's important for the team in rugby to be inclusive?
Yeah, I think it's important. I think it's huge. I think we all understand that rugby is a melting pot of cultures. And as far as professionals, we not only learn the game when we're out traveling overseas, but we're learning about other people. We get new friendships, we understand new ways of life. And I mean, who are we to say, no one else can play this game unless you actually bring them in, understand their cultures, understand everyone else's ways of living. So I don't see why we couldn't.
Yeah. It's just when we first begin playing rugby, you're given like a code of conduct to go by. But I think the one thing when I was a kid growing up, the one thing that stood out was this quote that my old coach used to tell me was, "Fear none, respect all." It goes to show with the rugby and in life as well that you would fear no one on the pitch, but off the field you respect them no matter where we are. Like even now, you would tackle and smash somebody on the field for 80 minutes, but after the game you would have a beer with them. So that's funny how rugby rugby works that way. You know, you're paid to smash somebody else, but you can still enjoy each other's time after the game. That's a really cool thing about rugby. And I don't think other sports like do that kind of style and they don't have that kind of culture, which I think rugby is very special in this world.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Ruggers are uniquely situated, I think, for that kind of inclusion because exactly, Jameson, what you're talking about, we can play rugby and then have a beer with each other afterwards. Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Excellent. Okay, well, thanks to everyone for your great questions. Really, really thorough discussion. Thanks especially Paul and Chris for your leadership and also for getting pro rugby to this area so soon after MLR started. I mean, it's great to have a team in DC already. And of course, thanks to Team DC for this opportunity. And of course, all of the work that Team DC does in this community. And thanks to all of the local teams for participating. And Threaten and Jameson, thanks for sharing your day with us and your insights. And we look forward to an amazing 2021 season. And I encourage everyone listening to join me in getting season tickets and supporting Old Glory.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
On behalf of Team DC, I just want to say thank you. I'm already a season ticket holder as well, so you don't have to push me. But thanks to all of you for joining us. This has definitely meant a lot to everyone, and we really look forward to being able to celebrate Pride Night Out with you next year.
Yes.
Thank you, Dre. Thank you, Laura, and everybody else. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Look forward
Thanks
to
for having us.
Good afternoon.
Bye.
You too. Thank
Laura?
you.
Thank you.